Hello and welcome to this preview of the new Cerebral Debugger. We're using the To-Do MVC application, and when I open up my console and click Cerebral, it tells me that I need to refresh my application to start the debugger. So when you switch between different Cerebral apps, it will actually notice that, and you have to refresh to update the debugger with the state of the application. Now, what happens when I refresh this application is that Cerebral actually tells the Chrome extension which version of the debugger it should load. So this makes it possible to have multiple applications running on different versions of the debugger. So let's take a closer look at how the debugger works. And as we can see here, we have a list of signals, and one signal has already been triggered, and it has been triggered by the router. And on the right side, we can take a look at the actions run on that signal. And there's one action called unset filter, which doesn't have any input, but it changes the state of the application at the path app footer filter, and it changes it to all. So when I go in and change the state of the application, hello world, we can see that new signals has triggered. And since these signals are the same, the Cerebral Debugger will actually group them. So if I click it now, we can see that all these signals, and I can click them to look at them. And if I click again, it closes that group. So let's hit enter and take a look at a more complex signal. As you might have seen, the signal was pulsating, which means that it's actually running, because this has some asynchronous actions. As we can see, it does a lot more changes to the state of the application, and it also had an asynchronous action, as we can see here. We can also see that when we added a to-do, we outputted a reference. This reference has moved along down to the input here, and also to this action. And this action actually has an output of an ID, and that means that the input on the next action has both the ref and the ID. Okay, so let's take a look at the model. So the model is the complete state of your application. And what's kind of cool now is that when I go in here and I say something else, hello Cerebral, you can actually see the model update live. And if I hit enter now, we can see that the model changes as things are happening with the signals. What's also very nice with the model is that I can click any value here. So if I click the title, I can actually change that to foo, and it updates in the UI. So it's possible to make changes directly in the model if you want to see how it affects your application. And of course you can collapse and dive into all these states however you like. So let's move back to signals. As we can see now that since I was changing the model, it triggered a signal in my application, and it actually triggered a signal on the DevTools. But you can see that, and that's one of the things about Cerebral. When you bring in different modules, you will actually see all the signals those modules trigger, which gives you great insight into your application. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to double click one of these signals. And what happened now was that it actually went back in time to that signal. So we can see it at that point in time. And I did the same now on the signal up here. What I'm also able to do is, if I go back to this one, I can click clear from current signal. What happens now is that I cleared out all the signals after it, and I can continue typing something else. So now you have gotten an insight into all well, insight into this application and all the stuff you can do with the new debugger. It's just about to go into a test phase now and will very soon be released. So thanks for taking a look, and I hope you liked it.